All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's show. I thank you so much for joining us today. We got a very busy show for you, and we appreciate you coming on with us. Really appreciate it. So, even though we won't have a full show for you today, it's still going to be very busy, still going to be very fun. And we'll, of course, have a full show for you tomorrow. And the unfortunate thing is that we often have been able... We missed, what is it now, 3 full-length shows over the past few days because our internet/power has been out here at the studios for that period of time. That's how big the nor'easters hurt us. And so that is not very fun at all. But other than that, we are all right. I've been following the news, and I'm ready to go. So here's what we have today. As Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia is preparing to travel to the U.S. this month to court American investments, Saudi officials are spotlighting reforms, but he is also the critic of the crackdown last year in which hundreds of influential businessmen, many of them members of the royal family, were held inside the Riyadh Ritz-Carlton, in what the government called an anti-corruption campaign, but was really pretty much an attempt to keep political prisoners inside a crazy nice hotel. Just to give you an idea of what it looks like, there's a huge, expensive chandelier in the building that's literally bigger than any other chandelier you've seen before. There's also a big horse that's looks to be about 30 feet tall, statue of a horse prancing up in the air. It's literally insane. I'd love to stay in there forever. But to leave, many detainees surrendered huge sums of money and signed over control of real estate and shares of their companies. So they pretty much had to give up their companies in a big way to the government, to the crown prince, as they were pretty much rounded up. They were kept in prison, and the whole thing worked. The government has portrayed the events as an orderly, legally process, but extensive interviews by reporters out there revealed a murkier operation marked by cases of physical abuse that transfer billions of dollars in private wealth to the crown prince's control. So he wants to get richer. You know how rich they are in Saudi Arabia, especially at the top, and especially with the prince. They want to get even richer, which is a little bit worrying, to say the least. President Trump called the Obama-era accord limiting Iran's nuclear capabilities a quote-unquote disaster, as he has a deadline in May to decide whether to abandon it. Prediction: he is not going to abandon it because literally a lot of people would just want to jump down his throat because that was a deal that was effective. Even though there maybe was no holes in it, maybe it didn't go far enough, whatever, it was actually pretty effective. So, so the Iran deal was something that actually worked out. But at the same time, he's also working to reach a more complex deal with North Korea. The North leader Kim Jong-un may wonder why he should negotiate with the U.S. if a subsequent president can simply pull the plug on any agreement. That's something that makes sense because Iran and North Korea, as weird as it seems, they pay attention to what happens with each other, those two governments. And if they see one person, and it's really interesting, they do, if you think about it, have similar situations. Their leader in Iran is more competent, which makes him all the more dangerous, but there is similar situations going on there, and that's why they are both watching each other to see what happens and how the U.S. treats how the U.S. treats them, to see whether it would be worth it to go into a nuclear negotiation with them. So that's how President Trump, another good reason for Trump to not pull out of the Iran nuclear deal, for sake of the North Korea one. It wouldn't really be a big deal, I don't think, because it's not one of his biggest promises, right? He wasn't really. It really wasn't that big of a tearing up thing. It's not something you would get too torn up about. Don't see the real justification for any of that kind of stuff. It just seems like, well, whatever. That's cool. He did the deal. It was somewhat effective. Republicans criticize it, then Trump criticized it. That seems like the only reason why he really wanted to criticize it. But other than that, we will see what he does, and that'll be very interesting to watch as the North Korea plan and the North Korea situation unfolds at the same time. So yeah, we looked at the challenge is, plural, that face Trump as he prepares to persuade Pyongyang to denuclearize. They are numerous, and separately, the president is going to present his administration's Middle East peace plan, officials said on Sunday. So, I don't know, presenting a lot of plans here. I don't remember if they did that with Obama, but it seems a little weird that they are presenting these plans. It just seems a little unorthodox, but don't really know. An interesting situation going on across what's... across the U.S., restaurant servers there are actually forced to calculate how far is too far away in harassing behavior against the tips they need to make a living wage. Amid a cultural reckoning over the workplace misconduct, we spoke to more than 60 servers and bartenders about how they ignored comments. This the New York Times. They had a great new piece on this, how they ignored comments about their bodies and deflected behavior that made them uncomfortable or angry. Some labor rights advocates have argued for a system with a higher minimum wage, but restaurant owners and servers themselves are divided on the idea. And I mean, obviously $15 is a living minimum wage, which Bernie Sanders supports. But I mean, some people. I mean, sure the men have a much harder time, much easier time than the women might. But still, it's not exactly fun. So, interesting situation in the Horn of Africa. They have It's dried faster in the 20th century than any time over the last 2,000 years, according to recent research. 4 severe droughts have devastated the area in the past 2 decades, in a rapid succession that has pushed millions of the world's poorest people to the edge of survival. And it was now, people, I mean, they've long been hampered by poverty, strife, etc. They're now in the front line of a new crisis, climate change. So just when you can't think you had screwed by every possible force imaginable, like some of the poorest people in the world, then you get some of the most devastating and biting effects of climate change. So that is beautiful. So the Horn of Africa getting hit hard at the moment. So yeah, in business news, the rush to pass the $1.5 trillion tax cut created errors and ambiguities in the law that businesses are now scrambling to address. So there's a little bit of problems with those. Also, Martin Shkreli, the former pharmaceutical executive notorious for sharply increasing drug prices, was sentenced on Friday to 7 years in prison after being convicted of fraud last year. The U.S. Treasury is holding a big bond sale this week, which will be interesting to watch as things go on, as U.S. stocks were up on Friday. And as of today, Shanghai, Nikkei, they are both up, but FTSE, I don't really know how to say that, is down 0.07%. Over the weekend, China's legislature voted overwhelmingly voted to end the presidential term limits, opening the way for President Xi Jinping to govern indefinitely. So that's a little fun. That's a little disturbing about how that'll play out on the global stage. So looks like they pretty much gained a dictator there. 5 people were killed after a helicopter flying a popular route from Manhattan sightseers crashed into the East River. So very sad to see there. Normally a very good place for tourism that kind of just fell. A week after a retired Russian spy and his daughter were poisoned by a nerve agent in Britain, authorities told anyone who was near the former spy agent that day to wash their clothes. Makes sense. Kansas, Villanova, Virginia, and Xavier were named the number 1 seeds in the men's NCAA men's March Madness college basketball tournament, which begins on Thursday. So it'll be fun. We will also it's also going to be pretty fun. I think we'll probably do the brackets on that on the Spencer Wall Show sometime soon. If not, maybe we can do a special episode before Thursday and put it out there. A Wrinkle in Time opened at number 2 as Black Panther crossed the $1 billion mark. But Wrinkle in Time, though, at the North American box office, earning $33.3 million. So that is a little bit unfortunate. So the quotation of the day: if you want to make the money, you'll learn to laugh. Brittany Gilbert, a waitress in Charleston, West Virginia, about how she and others, serve servers brush off harassment by customers in order to earn tips. So that's something that you're probably going to have to deal with if you maybe want to make more money. That's kind of sad realities of the world we live in that we really do need to change in the future. All right, on that prosperous, optimizing note, we will say so long. We'll have a full, normal show tomorrow, and we'll see you then.